You are now listening to Talking Transparency, the podcast where transparents talk transparently. Hosted by Thea Ross, Melissa Luxon, and Cody Connor.
Hello and welcome back to Talking Transparency. I'm Thea.
I'm Cody.
I'm Melissa.
And on tonight's episode, we're talking about a whole bunch of different issues. First, I'd like to just give a couple shout outs for a couple upcoming events. And then we will go into talking a little bit about what's going on in our world and talking transparently about all the wonderful things that I'm sure that you are following it along at home with. Well, first, I'd like to just say tomorrow we're going to be at ODU. If you're in Hampton Roads, if you're in Norfolk, come out and join us at the Pride Palooza. It's going to be, I believe, from 11 until 2 o'clock out there on the ODU Green. There are going to be a bunch of different organizations, lots of people out there celebrating. Obviously, we're not June yet, but Pride isn't just, something we do in June. It's something that goes on year round. So come out, have a little bit of fun, be in community. And then also, this weekend, we have the Trans Family Dinner that's going to be in Virginia Beach. You can go online to kaliscoalition.com/TFD. You can RSVP and you can get your name in the pot so you can come join us. We're going to be having hams. We're going to be having, I think there's a harvest bowl on the menu. So we're doing rice and butternut squash. We're doing salads. We're doing, but kids are doing deviled eggs. I think we're going to have like an army of children making deviled eggs. So if you'd like to come out and get a little deviled egg in you, come out. Also, good news is May Trans Family Dinner we have scheduled out in Hampton. We're going to be at the Life Center's location. So if you want, you can go online and RSVP for that one as well. That's May 18th, again, from 5 to 8 p.m. That's traditionally when we host it. We're going to, again, have a wonderful little meal, chickens, salads, fruits, veggies. Big shout out to Costco. I think Costco is going to be helping us with it.
Yes, Costco.
But yeah, like I said, right now, if you're looking for community, please join us. Please go online also to Hampton Roads Pride to check out their Pride events that are coming up. Get your tickets, make your plans, be there or be square. There's going to be a march that they're planning, and then. Almost forgot, the LGBT Life Center has got their, here in Hampton Roads, has got their Dining Out for Life. There are so many participating restaurants and different organizations you can get involved with. If you have a favorite restaurant, go online, see if they're participating. If they aren't, go to the LGBT Life Center's website. You can find out more information, get the full list of restaurants. When you go and eat out and dine out for life on that evening, you're helping fundraise for the community, bringing money into the LGBT Life Center, which is an essential thing to do right now and is a great way for you to both be in community, help fundraise, spread joy, have some good food. I love that program. I love everyone that's running it. I know we've got several volunteers that are going to be running it as well. So get involved.
Oh, awesome.
And there are so many ways to get involved right now, it seems
There
like.
are so many ways.
I mean,
I
was just going to say, I know you and I are running the on fire, basically.
Yeah, last night we went to city council to talk about our voting system. They want to do a ballot referendum, and ordinarily I would be okay with that, except for this has just been a shit show. And
Monday we were at the NAACP.
And Monday we were at the NAACP town
hall about the removal of diversity,
DEI.
equity, and inclusion. I insist on saying it fully every single time now.
I know. I need to get in the habit of doing that. I want to do that. I'm trying to do that, but I need to make the habit. And then today, Cody, I did forget about this. We spoke to Connecticut State Community College in Bridgeport, Connecticut, at the Gender Sexuality Alliance group, and it was great. There was a handful of people in there, and Cody talked about oppression, talked about advocacy and how to get out there and just start local.
I feel like we had some good conversation afterwards.
Yeah, we had Heather Sanamon too for the ACLU, and then they asked us some questions. We had some really good and that was just because Cody got famous on TikTok, and because he's so smart, and got invited to do this, and he just drugged me along and was like, "Hey, do you want to do this with me?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Did not want to do it by myself.
Yeah.
I was like, who'd be great at talking about activism and how to...
I can only imagine. Melissa, I wish I could have been there. Y'all didn't tell me about it. I would have been tuning in, because let me tell you, if I could take a masterclass from Melissa Luxon on activism, I would. I'd sign up instantly.
Well,
of course, I get one every week when I come in here. So
I try. I do try.
Either one of us didn't have ADHD, we might have recorded it.
Yep.
If you would like to see a masterclass being hosted by Melissa and Cody, be sure to get on our Patreon right now and or go to kaylescoalition.com/donate and we'll get right on that.
Get right on that. I actually have a couple things like that going on. I have got asked to speak May 8th. She keeps flipping the dates a little bit on me. But about essentially like just getting engaged, getting involved. I'm not sure how many people are there, but they've rented a room at the library, and I was like, okay, so all right, that's fine.
And I'll be there.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Be
So
right by the
I'll
library,
invite.
so.
Yeah. So I'll once I get more. But so trans family dinner this Sunday.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. On
On 420.
on
Easter
420.
Sunday.
It's also Easter and the last day of Passover. And someone told me at the Trans Day of Visibility, apparently it was Hitler's death day or birthday.
Birthday. Yeah, a lot
Okay.
of different things
Weird
going on
things
there.
going on that day. But I'll tell you what is going on is
Great
delicious dinner
dinner.
time.
That's right. Food.
Also, we had someone contribute. We're going to have cornhole. So we have a cornhole set up,
Ooh.
and I'm really excited about that. So the first time we're going to have some outdoor games. That'll be fun. So.
Oh, especially with the weather getting nicer, that'll be, because it's,
Yes, I am so ready for a sunburn and a mosquito bite.
yes, so ready. A sunburn and a mosquito bite.
Yep.
Awesome.
I feel like I could just hear the sound of the cicadas and I'm almost there. Let's get there.
Mhm.
Yeah. Lightning bugs. A few of them are
Lightning
left.
bugs. I know. Listen, you don't see, like when I was growing up, they were everywhere. Everywhere.
I'm just happy because I wish they were everywhere.
I know. Yeah, we can. So do you want to talk about news a little bit?
No, I don't want to
No.
talk about the news at all.
I mean,
I would rather not spread poop and fire.
I know.
But no, we need to talk about the news.
I know. I don't really want to talk about the news, but it's just crazy pants what's going on right now. I'm going to do it in one sentence. Okay, and this was updated as of yesterday. This was yesterday in one sentence. I mean, it's a sentence with a lot of semicolons. Federal immigration agents arrested a Columbia student when he arrived for his citizenship interview in Vermont, despite his legal residency and lack of any criminal charge. A federal judge ordered the Trump administration to turn over records and prepare for depositions over its refusal to bring Kilmar Abrego Garcia back from an El Salvador prison, despite a Supreme Court order requiring the government to, quote, facilitate his return. The Trump administration froze $2.2 billion in federal grants to Harvard after the university refused to adopt Trump's policy demands tied to campus protests and diversity programs. 82% of Americans believe Trump should obey court orders, even if he disagrees with them. That's promising. 56% think Trump should stop deporting people. I mean, better than what it was. Not 82%. Marjorie Taylor Greene bought up to $315,000 in stock and sold up to $100,000 in U.S. Treasury bills just before Trump announced a 90-day pause on tariffs that triggered the stock market's biggest rally since 2008. The Trump administration has scaled back from prosecuting white-collar crimes, you don't say, including foreign bribery, money laundering, and crypto. Roughly 22,000 IRS employees have signed up for a Trump administration buyout offer that he probably won't ever pay. And J.D. Vance fumbled Ohio State's national championship trophy at the White House.
Yeah, I watched that.
That was hilarious.
Wait, he fumbled it? What did he mean? Like he dropped it?
He literally broke it. Like he literally broke it. He was holding, the guy was like handed a hold and he was like trying to do whatever and hold it. And then it just,
He's just an awkward fellow.
He's such an awkward dude. Remember just, that he was it Yale or Harvard? I can't remember, but one of Yale. Yeah, he's a Yale graduate though. And he's a schmuck. But yeah, he did that. So I just do want to touch on the Marjorie Taylor Greene thing, because Marjorie Three Toes, that woman is such a deplorable, and I 100% believe that she of course, took advantage of the market, as did many of our people. Do y'all know who Senator Josh Hawley is? Does that
Yes.
ring a bell?
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
We
I remember
know
seeing
he's a
him
little.
running through.
The running. Yeah, he's a little schnotzy. But when the Schnazis are reintroducing the Pelosi Act, which was the banning insider, basically owning stocks.
Mhm.
I'll pull that up. We basically Josh Hawley today reintroduced the Pelosi Act to prevent. So like when you have a far right leaning Republican who has not deviated from the president publicly but is like literally going, this is too far, or you guys, this is that there's some illegal happenings. I think
Sounds like he didn't make any money.
sounds like he didn't make any money off of it. It's true, but at least we're gonna see how far. At least he's a far righter, so at least like maybe we'll see
Grab
something.
give
out of it.
bipartisan
quarter.
support.
I give no
think-
quarter to him. No, not
I
to
think
Josh Hawley. He's a giant piece of garbage. No. I'm just saying. What I'm saying is, like, maybe with him coming over, we will start to. It just takes a few defectors. Slowly they are. Like Chuck Grassley, yes, like last night in his town hall, like Iowa that room was full of white-haired Republicans at Chuck Grassley's town hall. And they were yelling at him about Abrigo Garcia. They were yelling. One man was like, I couldn't see him on camera, but I just imagine like a portly, red-faced fella in like suspenders and a bulk, probably a MAGA hat. Who knows? Maybe not, because he's a little bit mad. He sounded a little bit mad in this video. But I just imagine that, okay? Yelling at 91-year-old Senator Chuck Grassley and being like, if I got a $1,200 bill and I didn't pay it and had to go to court, if the court told me I had to pay a $1,200 bill and I didn't pay it, well, I have to pay it, don't I? Or do I? So people are starting to question, like, well, if you're not following, like, if the law isn't the law anymore, like, we all know that this applies to us. If I didn't show up for court today, a capias would be issued for me and they would put out a warrant for my arrest. And I can't just go,
No,
I
don't agree with you.
I don't agree with you. So,
well, I think it's the breakdown of the rule of law, and I think that I lost my train of thought there. I had a really good comment, but I'll tell you, no matter what happens at the end of this, we're going to have a lot of people pissed off. We're going to have a lot of people with a lot of questions. And if we do lose all of due process and it only applies for the rich and the powerful and the politically connected, we're going to see a lot more people because the social contract is gone.
The social contract is gone. It's been gone, but it's gone.
Why
It's
should I
about
pay
to be gone.
taxes? The
Yeah,
only reason
right.
why I'm paying taxes is because of the fear of police violence. And I'd argue that a lot of people have been at that point who are anti-federal government, but there's always at least been the pretext of, well, we have civil society. There are laws that will protect us. We have due process. There's like, okay, I may not agree with the way things are going, but there's appeals. There's justice that will ultimately serve. And we understand that's flawed and imperfect. I'm of the mindset that we have to continue to change our laws so that we get closer and closer to justice when we are adjudicating these things. But it seems like all of a sudden a step away from that. Why should I pay tax? Oh yeah, because if I don't, they will have a reasonable pretext. But the thing is like, even then it starts to break down, because if they're going to arrest me and arrest people under unreasonable pretexts, then why does it matter whether I give them pretext or not? Because they already had the pretext to arrest me. So why should I pay? It all starts to break down.
Let's be clear, it's not arrest.
Okay.
All right. When you capture somebody without any evidence or due process, it's kidnapping.
It's kidnapping.
Thank you. Good point.
You
It's not
know,
detainment. It's not arrest.
No, it's kidnapping. It's not detainment. It's not arrest. When there's no due process and you just take somebody because, I mean, they had an incident where one agent even said this is not the person, and another agent said take him anyway.
Take him anyway.
When that's not arrest.
Mm-mm.
That is
Kidnapping.
kidnapping. Um,
Isn't it funny that it's called kidnapping when it's not a kid?
Yeah.
But
We're all somebody's kids at some point in
somebody.
time.
It was somebody's. You're right. You're right. You're right. Yes, but like, no, it's true. There's no. I mean, our social contract is broken, and there's just no due process at this point. Somebody today, I heard them talk about the way that people are talking and treating these people, like the people in El Salvador that got sent to El Salvador, like NPC players. Like the humanity for some people is just gone. Like like it's like these people are NPCs, non-playable characters. They're just like that the dehumanization has gotten to the point that that's how conservatives who are supporting what's happening, these illegal kidnapping and deportations, they're treating these people like they're NPCs.
Well, I think it's about whether or not they see their life as valuable, and then also in context of value, whether that's a productive body. Because I think there's a couple different things. At the point that someone labels and puts things like terrorist or criminal on somebody, we're also taking something away. Because every concealing is a reveal, every revealing is a concealing. When we put this label, we're taking away their ability to be seen in certain lights. And I think that that's intentional, and we're going to keep seeing that happen.
Yeah.
And we have to push back against that as much as we can. But state power doesn't allow us to do that with language very easily.
Right. Well,
Because like you said,
machine.
propaganda, and never mind the fact of police power and actual kidnapping.
Well, the biggest propaganda was going on today was while Senator, what is it, Van Holland from Maryland went to El Salvador. He was doing a press conference. Well, the White House was like, "Oh, well, we're going to do our own press conference because we don't want you to see that one." And they know that the news outlets are going to prioritize a White House press conference. And it was some crazy lady. It wasn't even a government official. It was at the White House, behind the White House podium in the press room. I haven't even researched this case, but talking about her daughter's unaliving, which is very unfortunate. But she described in detail all the information she learned at the trial. And then she definitely spoke out of turn in the way as if she were present. She was describing things that she learned at the trial as if there was a camera and she watched the whole thing versus just saying like the details. And then of course the man's last name was like Martinez or Rodriguez or something like that. And so I came into it late, but I immediately figured out that her daughter was, according to her, and again, I have not corroborated any of this, brutally unalived by a person. The whole time I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking that's just another violent man that did something very violent and awful and unspeakable to your daughter, ma'am. It doesn't have anything to do with what country he's from or his immigration status. Like, all I'm thinking of is like, you're missing the point, but probably on purpose, because you're doing this to like, it was such propaganda. It like made my stomach turn. Like putting this woman on a press conference like this. I mean, she looked a hot mess too. Like it was like, I mean, honestly, I'm like, did they just go out on the streets of DC and like snatch a woman up and be like, "Hey, can you talk about this case right here and say it was your daughter?" I mean, like, I'm not kidding. It was so strange. And then she just walks out when she's done. She goes on and on and on about how we have to clean up the streets of our country and these people are blah, blah. I mean, I was like, this was this afternoon after you left my house. And I'm like, what is this? And she walks out of the press room and then the camera just pans on the empty podium. No press secretary comes back out. Nobody was standing there with her. Twilight Zone, y'all. But that was because they didn't want people watching the briefing of what happened in El Salvador when they refused, the vice president of El Salvador refused to allow him a phone call unless it was requested by the U.S. Embassy. Didn't allow him to see him, Mr. Garcia. And they let in a Republican congressman to come in and give his double thumbs up photo shoot.
So wait, you're saying the U.S. Embassy there in El Salvador, which by extension is the U.S. State Department, denied making a phone call, because it doesn't sound like there's even any formal paperwork. They wouldn't make a phone call to let a sitting U.S. senator. Okay,
who was there in El Salvador?
But they did it for a partisan, a Republican conservative.
But they allowed a Republican congressman to come inside the jail. And he literally has a double thumbs up photo. It literally was for a photo op.
So we have to assume at this point that because there was a Republican,
by the way, it's a concentration.
It's a concentration camp. Sorry.
Let's be clear. Yes. But like we have to assume at this point they made this intentional decision at the someone in the State Department, someone at that embassy to say, we're going to okay this. We're going to make the phone call for thumbs up Republican guy. Hey, everything's good. We will not make the call for Senator Van Hollen.
Or the state embassy didn't call at all, and the vice president gave permissions for the Republican to come in. I mean, that could be too. Also, that could be fine. Also, but what the senator was saying is that they wouldn't even allow him, the senator, a phone call to speak to Mr. Garcia. So not only can you not see him, but you can't talk to him on the phone without permission from the U.S. Embassy. And that permission, I don't know if it was silence. I don't know if it was denied. I didn't get that far.
Well, there has to be, like, we have to assume that at this point, and I haven't followed much on this, it'd be interesting to find out how much the Trump administration has done at the State Department to set up and to bolster this sort of, well, not constructively. I mean, the things he's done to set up the ability for these abuses, who he put in power, what has he repealed, and then also specifically because the State Department operates all of these embassies, they have services they offer to U.S. citizens that are in all of these different countries. This would include things like, hey, I need to help out with an administration or official or some sort of government paperwork, or I need something like to get into this prison. And that would be for any U.S. citizen. Let's say that I was in El Salvador and I'm not a sitting senator of all things, and I'm able to say, hey, I'd like to go visit someone and I'm having some red tape. I'd call the U.S. State Department, the embassy, and they would help. The fact that a sitting U.S. senator, because there's only 100 of those, or like seriously, couldn't get that phone call through, couldn't get that happening, means to me that they have put some sort of roadblock, and that has to be intentional, because I know that he's a citizen. Senator Van Hollen is a senator, but he's also a citizen. That embassy is there to serve him.
The whole thing is an intentional roadblock. That's why you pay El Salvador $6 million. That's why we're paying them $6 million.
Yeah, he's either
it's not just to keep them in the prison; it's to be the roadblock.
Yeah. He's either, and this is the thing at this point. Supposedly there has been some kind of like, I don't want to say proof of life, but like they was confirmed like 2 days ago that he was still alive. I don't know how valid that is, but I do know that that's what I heard. And then, but like, I don't know to believe that. And so I'm like, I've just never seen, I mean, other than like a 4-year-old to go to such great lengths after you've been told over and over and over that you did the wrong thing, that you just cannot admit fault. And as a matter of fact, the lawyer who's been at the State Department, or not State Department, for the DOJ for 15 years, that actually was the first, I guess, one to go to the judge who said, yes, it was an error, got fired yesterday. Yeah. Of course, right? Because he admitted fault. Yeah. And so the DOJ, so they fired him. So like literally they are going, because there's something wrong. Either they don't want him getting into custody of people that he will say what is actually happening and going on there, or he's DEAD. I don't, why else would you be fighting so hard against, just because you don't want to say you're wrong? No,
Well, but
there's got to be more than that.
because if they win that fight over this one person,
Well, there's the
then
barber.
it opens
there's the,
up the floodgate. It completely eliminates that barrier.
Yeah.
And they're also on a timeline because, as you pointed out, there are other folks, and they're trying to open the sluice gate. They're trying to get all of the dams open so that it doesn't become this one case, or it doesn't become we stop it here. It becomes an overflow into what we cannot deal with. Tens of thousands of people in multiple different countries, all not getting due process, and all these sorts of different. And I think that that's kind of sadly the game here that's being played.
And I was thinking about this earlier because this Abrego Garcia thing's obviously it's everywhere, and it's really breaking a chord with me. There was a bill. Like, at the end of the day, if you look at every single story of every single immigrant family, for the most part, okay, there's a common thread with them of process. When they got, like, Abrego Garcia, right? It's 2025. In 2019, he went in front of the judge, and the judge issued him protective that he couldn't be sent back to El Salvador. Okay. It was established that he came here undocumented. He was undocumented, but then he got into the system, which is what they require. And by the way, if you come into the US, you actually have a year to turn yourself in.
And once you've got into the system, you're not undocumented.
And then once you got in the system, you're not undocumented anymore. And so, yeah, so think about this, like 6 years has gone by and he's still not through the process. It takes on average 8 to 10 years. Part of that is our judicial system. The immigration bill that the Republicans tanked because Trump needed that to run on because he desperately needed to get in office, so that he could stay out of jail and Elon Musk could stay out of jail. And that's why Elon Musk bought the presidency. They could have solved these problems. That bill had funding and money going into the judicial system, into the immigration courts. People are complaining about, like, oh, I'm fine with people coming in, but they just have to do it the right way. Okay. Well, we all have to acknowledge that the right way isn't making people wait 10 years and paying thousands and thousands of dollars. Like 10 years. That's crazy.
When you make it
they're making it impossible
to do something.
That's right.
People aren't going to do it. But I think that's kind of the overall, it's really about population control and fear, and it is about trying to exert certain policies.
It's so unintelligent.
Well, but when you talk about population control, it's not about controlling the number of the population that to rise. It's about controlling the demographic.
Yes,
yeah.
That's a good observation, because when we talk about we're not saying that it's just a raw numbers game. It really is more, because if it was, they'd be immigration all day, which way you could get it. In fact, we have been at different times in history and at different moments in time, different administrations and policies. But like, it is about making sure that some people live and some people die, to be really explicit. Michael Foucault talked about this in terms of biopower, like biopolitical domination. Who will have the ability to get resources? Who will be given pathways? Which doors will be opened for you? Which ones will be closed for others? And how the closing of that, taking away resources, leads to the slow degradation, also the fast degradation of the bedrock that people are under, depending on the type of policy. So there's all different levels. At this level is the direct implementation we're going to go through and cleanse populations. When they say clean up the streets, I want people to think about ethnic and cultural cleansing, because that's exactly what they are calling for.
And I mean, I feel like this has been building since 2012, when white babies weren't the majority of babies born that year or something.
Yep, sounds about
and
white.
And then all of a sudden this became very, very hyped topic.
Right, and then of course he got and that was in the middle of the Obama presidency, and then Trump got the presidency after that, and like it's just been a shit show all rolling downhill since. And so, and then you have the whole tariff war. So right now we have like there's so many things going on, but like, Hong Kong said yesterday they're not allowing any parcels to be shipped through Hong Kong Postal Service to the United States.
That's devastating to so many businesses and people.
Yeah.
And people like, are you kidding me?
China has said China's not just, they're just like, oh no, screw the tariffs. Like we're just not going to allow any raw
not going to do
materials.
business with you.
We're just not, we're not going to sell any raw materials to the United States. My business will be affected by that. My jeweler, like my jewelry vendors, their raw materials like titanium and stuff, the metals come from China. A lot of them come from China. So, I mean, I think like there's like Denmark or somewhere else that you can get, like it's a random other country or something for titanium, or a couple other countries, but the majority of it comes from China. So,
About raw goods, but the other thing that always gets me in this conversation about capitalism, how the most effective system is that China has had this trump card. I hate to call it a trump card, but it's a card that they've had in their back pocket for the longest time, which is that intellectual property rights, the asymmetry between our systems, our laws, and theirs. We in the West, although we talk about competition and the best ideas are going to compete against each other, we have a system that lets wealthy people, capitalists, buy ideas, put them on a shelf, and then no one else can build or use those ideas, so that we don't have the best products, so we don't have the best services, so we just have whatever is going to be most economically profitable, viable, whatever they make the justifications for. Now in China, when they cut us off materially, they're going to stop taking, like they've come out and said publicly they're going to start taking American intellectual property with impunity, because their laws and their frameworks do not have that system built into it. So you look at things like BYD. You look at, for very specific, like tech and cars and all this sort of stuff, right on Elon Musk. Those cars are amazing.
Yeah.
I watched a video of one of them like turn, like each one of them has different gearboxes on the motors, and like turn, and they can like move sideways, left and right, and park themselves and do crazy things. They've got like stabilization so that when one wheel goes up, it all compensate. You can have like a glass of water sitting in the middle of your car and it won't fall over as you're driving over bumps and such. And we look at things in America. Elon Musk has not been innovating, has been buying Twitter, wasting billions of dollars in assets. A good, solid historical argument for how the concentration of wealth is not the most efficient way to doing things. And never mind the fact that he has used his wealth to buy up, all of the engineers that have made the innovations at Tesla have been paid off so that their names are not attached to it, so that he could say, I'm Iron Man and I made this innovation. Everything from what's that? The next Edison, exactly. But you know what he actually contributed? Taking LiDAR out of the cars. Our Teslas don't have LiDAR in them, even though every other car
and
since the 90s
more,
for emergency stop and stuff has had LiDAR, and BYD has LiDAR, other vehicle manufacturers have LiDAR. That was Elon's baby. Say, let's not do that anymore. Yeah. The thing that gets me is that there's no way that the super brains, the American super brains, are ever going to be able to catch up a game, because they're not even playing the game. American capitalists are not really super brains. They're just owners.
They're just literally, we're just consumers. We're owners. We are just a nation of consumers, not producers.
And I think that's something, too, that a lot of people aren't really thinking about or talking about, right? Because as, you know, here in America, we've got conservation lands, we've, protected forests, we've stopped strip mining.
Oh, Trump opened up logging here last week.
We've done coal. We've done all of these things to protect land and communities' health and all of these sorts of things. And we have benefited because we didn't stop becoming consumers by any means. We're the largest consumers, probably. And so all of the negative effects of consumerism, the really huge ones, that affect lots of communities, we've been insulated from that because of the manufacturing overseas and the mining overseas and that global trade.
And the subsidization we've done on base levels from the federal and state level.
Yeah, and so people aren't thinking about so they bring that back, right? We do get cut off. We do just, have this populist movement where we make everything in America and it's all mined in America, and it's all manufactured in America, and we have all of the factories pumping that into our air, and all of the land being stripped, and all of the communities next to them being poisoned, and the waters being poisoned, and all of those things. And the regulations, because we wanted those companies to move back here and do this. We wanted it to be easy and cheaper. And so we unregulated it, so it doesn't matter how much they're damaging the area around them. It doesn't matter that they've killed off the wildlife. It doesn't matter that whole communities are coming in with cancer and other disabilities decades later. It doesn't matter that any of that could and will be happening to people. And so all of those things, all of those images of this terrible stuff that's been shown to us on TV and shown to us in our class about how don't do these things. I remember as a kid, that big push against things like strip mining and all of those things that were happening in our country. Matter of fact, I remember there's this little tiny hill with a flag on it, and that hill used to be a mountain until we just ate it away and put a flag on top of this little tiny hill that's left now along the side of a freeway.
Right.
All of that's what we're asking to bring back. Please bring that back, and in the process, make everything more expensive for us.
Way more expensive.
And make it harder to get access to health care, while make it easier for our health to be destroyed by what's going on around us and the work that we're having to do just to barely survive.
We don't have the infrastructure. When people talk about the labor, why things are made in, Italy or China or like overseas, and because it's for because the cost of the labor cost, but they have different infrastructure. Like the reason that they provide universal health care, they provide rent stabilization, which is all what they're going to, what America calls communism, right? And it's funny when people talk about China and mass surveillance. Have you looked around in America? Like, we are being mass surveilled 100%. You are delusional if you think that we are not like being mass surveilled every second of every single day. There's like literally, you cannot go, if you committed a crime and especially if they know it's by car, they can track you through every intersection from point A to F.
Oh, and if you're driving a Tesla, the Department of Government Efficiency has cameras on you all the time.
Yeah,
when driving around.
Yeah, that is exactly right. And so, and then I did want to touch really quick on that. Did you hear? You probably haven't. Jack Dorsey, Twitter original CEO, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. Jack Dorsey and Elon Musk today said that they think that intellectual property needs to go away. No more IP.
We need reform in intellectual property to protect like creators and artists and such. We need to make sure that massive corporations, but like that isn't like a unilateral, like let's do a flat tax or let's get rid of this policy or whatever. It's a matter of doing it in a way that protects creators, small businesses, and individual artists and such.
Yeah.
They said something like, "Oh, creators and stuff would." No. Oh my God, I can't wait to hear.
They want intellectual property to go away because if you remove intellectual property, then it just becomes a matter of resources.
That's right. And that's right.
That's it. Then all that matters is resources.
And the people with the resources.
Which is hilarious because isn't that once again just like the ultimate, like giving somebody something they didn't earn?
Right. Yep. Not merit-based at all.
Not merit-based at all.
Not at all. Yeah, not at all. So,
and also the intersection of like AI with all of this, because why do they need to respect the intellectual property of a creator, whether it be a technical creator, an artist creator, or otherwise, if they can just take it, scrape it, and reuse it? And in that context, like if it's all a race to the bottom, if at this point, which it seems to be when it comes to these trade wars, I mean, how else are we going to compete with China or these other, like at a certain point, it's really disgusting because what Trump has done is thrown the entire world economy into a new order, whether he intended to or not. Yep. And we are not going to come out on the top of that.
We are not. No, like especially based on our education. And they're just making the education worse. They're just defunding education. So it's like, you're not even helping us catch up with China.
They have like a phobia, hate, visceral dislike of actually being educated, and It really.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember
A
reading
disdain.
articles.
And I think the disdain is that because when you are educated, you can finish the thought, and whenever they finish their thoughts, they realize just how terrible they were.
That's right. I love the finish the thought.
That's what it always is. It's finish the thought.
Walk it all the way through.
Walk it all the way through. I mean, tariffs is great.
Right,
Tariffs
yeah.
is a great example of finish the thought.
Mm-hmm.
Well, these people, they charge us this much, and we should charge them that much too, because that's what would be fair. Okay, that sounds fine. That sounds fair.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Until you talk about Madagascar.
And well, and until you talk about who it really impacts, and until you talk about, like bringing manufacturing back to America.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to bring back making things in America? Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But where are you putting the plants? How long does it take to build? Where are the materials to build the plants?
Who's going to do
the jobs?
Okay. So
we already have a couple million jobs that are not filled in this country.
That's right. But say it happens. Say you bring it back and you fill the jobs somehow. All right. What's the number one reason we don't buy American-made things today?
Because
they're more expensive. They're more expensive. You didn't make anything cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
What you did was make everything the most expensive thing that we already didn't want to buy because it was the most expensive thing.
Yep.
And so ultimately, because most of us aren't making the thing, most of us aren't owning the company, most of us aren't owning the stock. Most of us are just buying the now more expensive thing.
That's right.
And that's the finished thought. At the end of the day, where it really impacts you is everything in your life now costs more.
That's right.
Good job.
Mm-hmm. And that's it. And so when you walk,
if it even happens.
If it even happens. And also, but listen, do you know how long it will take us to buying things way more expensively? Only American-made products? 20 freaking years.
Yeah. And that's why it'll never happen. Because corporations are never going to...
They're already freaking out because we're circumventing them.
People in politics are way more fickle than anything else. There's no reason why they're going to put all of that investment to bring all that infrastructure over here to create jobs that they don't have people to put in when they can just wait 3-4 years, maybe take an economic hit or whatnot, but certainly know that once the rubber hits the road, once anything really starts affecting people, that there's no way the politicians can survive that discontent. And so they'll just wait for that.
Yeah.
And then they'll go back to business as usual. Because that next wave will be over and everybody, if it, we're assuming that this passes as we hope it does. But certainly after this, everybody will be so relieved that it's gone that some of the economic oppressions from before, where they're just making a bunch of money off of us and not completely stripping us of human rights, will just seem so much better in comparison. We won't even care about it for a minute. And that's the cycle so much with the money. They're not going to just bring the jobs back here. No. They're not going to just start making things in America. They're just going to wait this out while the people that do own the companies, the big ones, and other billionaires make lots of money off of the turmoil.
Because they're not, and they're still on their yachts and eating their good food and have access and traveling and all those things.
It doesn't matter to them if the cost of regular living goes up $500 or $1,000 a month.
No.
It doesn't matter to them the way it matters to everybody else. That's a blink. Mm-hmm. And so they'll just wait it out while everybody else suffers to the point so they can go back to doing what they were doing.
You know, my fear amongst what you're saying is, because I know what you're saying is true, but we can't predict the future. But that scapegoats will start to take form, because as things get harder, as things get more expensive, as Donald Trump says, we're going to experience a little pain or whatever the crap he's justifying it for today.
Already
That's going
has.
to be blamed on immigrants. That's going to be blamed on radical leftists and socialists and communists and people who are fighting against it, who are not true patriots. And that's where the rub over the next 2 to 4 to 2 to 8.
That's
depending on how
already
it goes.
started. That's not the next 2 to 4. That's the last 2 to 4,
Yep.
and it just gets worse. Gender affirming surgeries and care in prison. Your taxpayer dollars are going to that. That's why things are so expensive in the government. Helping anybody, anywhere that needs help. Well, these terrible, villainous people are taking your money to create democracy somebody where it needs it to be.
Well, there's a certain type of, like, on the front end that you're talking about, getting people motivated to hate other people, but that what I'm talking about is a specific phenomenon, because there is a point where this starts directly affecting their base, and we're at that point now. We're in that right now. I don't think that we were at that point a couple of years ago, and I think that as we get closer and closer to the economic fallout, and as this quality of living in America declines and declines and declines, the people that are on the right, the people that are people who aren't as educated, aren't paying attention, okay, are going to be fed things from the demagogue, from people from the right wing, from fascists. And this is the playbook that I'm scared about, okay? This is the next play, if you will, is that they will start scapegoating, and they have been. They've laid the groundwork rhetorically and through policy and all sorts of different things, the way that they've approached this to do it. So it's not like it's new, but we will go into an even harder denial. As things get worse, we will blame that and go further into the scapegoating, and that will justify an escalation of violence. It will justify an escalation of the emergency. It will justify an escalation of all of the brutality, because it won't just be a lack of empathy that they're calling for, which they are calling for lack of empathy, but also a glorification of the violence and the brutality, because that will be conflated with justice, and that will be conflated with what will actually solve the problem. And that's the playbook that happens with all these fascist regimes. Ultimately, the clouds will clear. We don't know how bad it's going to get. We don't know how much of how long it will last, but it is not a sustaining system. It cannot actually produce or grow. It will only destroy. And as a consequence of that, people will look to blame their neighbors. And the thing that I think that we can do the best, the people that, if you're listening at home, that you can do, is to get to know your neighbors and get to know the people, and stay away from the ones that are not necessarily going to be there for you, and be known in community.
Yes.
I think that if there's one thing that I can do, one thing that keeps me grounded is being known in community and knowing my community. And
no, that's what we talked about today too at the community college. Like, we talked about community. Like, you have to find you find one or you build one. And so I think that's what's going to save us all. And on that note, I think that was positive enough for us to end on. I feel like
I was looking for a hard pivot, y'all. If you're watching at home, I was trying to pivot, because it's a lot of heaviness.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of heaviness. And it was a question that one of the students at our little thing today asked, and basically was, how do you get out of that? And how do you get other people out of that? How do you help people overcome the helplessness?
Yeah.
Right? The feeling that they're always going to lose. And, just as I've had so many great examples come from the trans family dinners, I had a great example.
Oh my gosh.
Of that.
Yeah, he gave a great
come
example.
From the trans family dinners. Because there are so many people in our community, in the community that have that feeling very much, that isolation, that nothing I can do, that there's no, like, this is always going to happen every time, and I know we've talked about it before, how in the first dinners you can see some of that tentativeness, some of that trauma. Just going to a social event to interact with people.
Yeah.
You could feel that. And as we watched people come to the dinner, as my children have come to the dinners, as I've come to the dinners, and participated and been blessed with so many other interactions, and relationships from the dinners, just sitting down and having dinner together. I've seen that helplessness go away some. I've seen people be more confident in being themselves. At least there. And so that's how you beat this.
Yeah.
That's how you overcome the helplessness. That's how you fight the internalized oppression that they're trying to give you. And fighting that first is how we really, the first steps we take in fighting the rest of the oppression is fighting that back. And you do it by providing safe, consistent spaces where people can be themselves. If you want to promote freedom, create spaces, no matter how small, for people to be free in.
Be themselves.
And that's how we hold on to that joy, and that's how we use that joy to defeat hate every time. Thanks for being with us again.
Thank you.
See y'all next week.
Love y'all. Bye.
This podcast is brought to you in partnership with Collective Tattoo and the Kalos Coalition. We are listener supported, so if you like the show, please consider donating to us on Patreon at patreon.com/talkingtransparency. Like, share, and subscribe across social media, and be sure to visit our Linktree at linktree.com/talkingtrans.